please do not have head trash. That is the phrase that I tell my clients who come and say, Ari, I don't think I can retire. I don't have 10 million. I don't have 5 million. I don't even have 3 million. I don't have 2 million. All my friends and neighbors are always talking about how much money they have. I am not in that position. Does that mean I can't retire early? No, that's not what it means. You have no idea. If they want to spend way more than you, they want a second home, they want to pay for all their kids, they want to be able to pay for weddings and down payments, and maybe that's something you want to do, but is it realistic for you? Well, it completely depends on your plan. So I have a lot of people who think they are nowhere close to retiring early. It's legitimately a pipe dream. When it's not, when the reality is they just need to understand their trade-offs. That's what I'm going to do in today's video. Now, what prompts me to make these videos are comments like this right here. So this was 16 hours ago. I saw this comment come through. I love getting to read the comments because that's how I make these videos. And Dave B038 says, I feel like we're screwed. I'm 57, married with about 900K, but 650K is in a brokerage superhero account. The rest is in an IRA and HSA I don't want to touch. I just lost my job of 22 years last week. Wife has numerous medical issues. Cobra is $2,100 a month. A couple more years and I feel like we would have been darn close. I'm hopeful we will make it, but scenarios like this make me feel bad about our situation. That was on a video that I recently posted where someone had $4 million. Well, that couple with 4 million, they might be in an entirely different stage of life. They might want to spend way more money. So I'm not saying you're not screwed. What I'm saying is you always have options. You're certainly never screwed because you can always choose to go back to work. You might not want to. You can always choose to spend less. You might not want to. You can always choose to look at other healthcare options, but you might not want to. I will joke at you on my YouTube videos and say I am the meanest financial advisor. I promise, guys, I'm not mean. I'm very transparent because I don't want you mad at me if you retire too early and run out of money, and I don't want you mad at me if you're 80 with $5 million going, hey, Ari, that was not my goal. Why didn't you tell me I could have spent more when I was in a fine spot? Now, I am the host of the Early Retirement Podcast. I'm a certified financial planner. Let's hop right in. Now, you can see in this case study I'm going to show you today, it's not a married couple. It's not the exact situation of what you just saw, but it's someone who reached out to me who had a lot of head trash. Once again, the phrase I like to talk about here, where you're just thinking, you know, my friends or neighbors, they're not even talking about early retirement, so there's like surely no way I could do it. That's not what that means. This person is divorced. They're 60 years old. They have a net worth of $2 million. They own their home. Good job. $700,000 home. And they have 1.2 million in a 401k, 45,000 in a brokerage account. Their 401k, this is all pre-tax, which means they got a deduction when they put money in, but they're gonna have to pay taxes when they take money out. You can see this person is planning on working until 64 years old and spending $8,000 a month. Now, if I go to their retirement, which is what I'm about to show you right now, you're going to see what are they on track for, what are their trade-offs. Okay, so this person, and I'm going to be very clear here, once again, they wanted to work until 64. I had a conversation with them. They wanted to then work until 62. If they worked until 62, they would run out of money at about 83 years old. Why? Because they wanted to spend $8,000 a month, which is $96,000 a year, and another $15,000 a year on travel. Now, imagine they worked until 64 and spent zero on travel. How would their plan be impacted? Well, what you can see is they would be on track to pass away with about $2 million. Maybe that's not their goal. So what if they say, Ari, I'm happy to work until 64, but I want to travel at $15,000 a year? I'd say, great, what's your goal? Do you want to pass away with $2 million? They don't have any children, so they don't have legacy goals. So passing away with $1 million doesn't scare them. At the same time, they don't want to work till 64, but you do have to understand trade-offs. So pretend they were to work until 62, but not travel. Okay, now there's about $650,000 left over. What's most important to them? That's what we would want to really dive into. So that's what I would hope you dive into. Maybe this $8,000 for them, they don't have a mortgage. So this $8,000, that's $100,000 extra. Now, yeah, they have property taxes and they need to make sure they're paying for maintenance and insurance, but $8,000, that's a significant amount of money. What if they say, you know what, we don't need that. $6,000 is plenty. If I had $70,000 a year, I could really do what I wanted. Well, now they're on track for 3.5 million. So if you want to go play around with your own projections, you can use this tool to go see what you're on track for. Now, they make a very healthy income today, $240,000 a year. They're saving a good amount of money, $20,000 a year to their brokerage account. One thing that I would want to talk to this couple about in more detail, not this couple, this individual, is how much would you love to spend? And pretend they say, Ari, you know what? I know you think 8,000 is a lot, but I actually want more. I want $9,000 a month. And I actually work until 64. That sounds terrible. I want to be done today. Let's just pretend someone were to say that. I'd say, awesome, you have options. You can, run out of money at 74, and they'd say, I don't want that. I go, I could see that. But you could also work part-time. What if you worked 5 more years, but you didn't make $240,000 a year? What if you only made $75,000 a year? Because it just was way less hassle, way less stressful. Okay, it didn't quite get them there, but it did extend them about nearly 10 years. What if they brought in $115,000 a year? You can see it certainly does help. Now we're getting closer, almost about age 90. But you can see part-time income does not play as strong of a role as dropping expenses. You drop expenses to $6,000 a year and you work part-time, now you're in a really comfortable spot. So these are different trade-offs. See, these are things that I would want you to consider for yourself, because the person who commented on this video, hey, I feel like we're screwed, we're 57, we're married, we've got $900K, but $650 is in a brokerage account, the rest is in an IRA. Look, they have about $1 million, $900,000. A big expense here is that COBRA, that $2,100 a month of healthcare. What we're not seeing here, we added travel, but we didn't add in healthcare. So we would want, if we want to get really granular here, we'd want to go in here and we'd want to add, how often are we buying new cars? What about vacations? What about weddings? What about healthcare? What about any giving? And income-wise, is there any, inheritance that's projected to come? Do you want to plan on, whatever it may be, a second home? How are we saving? What about medical or alimony because they're divorced? So there's a lot to do here. What I don't want you to do is make the simple mistake of, oh yes, there's just no chance I can retire. No way. My neighbors and friends, they have way more money than me and they're not even retired. So yeah, just not in the cards for me. I'm just screwed. You're not screwed. You have trade-offs. It might mean you have to spend less. You might need to work more. Maybe it's part-time. But here's the biggest hack I see for people that want to retire early. It is part-time income, and I'm going to tell you why. Here's the example that I shared with a couple. So a couple came to me and they said, Ari, you're going to be really upset. I said, okay, I don't get that upset easily, but what do you've got for me? And they said, well, our income. We make about $300,000 a year as a couple. We're kind of big ballers. They know they can joke with me. And then I'll say, you're right. I know you're big ballers. Okay. Then they'll say, well, we're thinking about part-time income because our current jobs are super stressful and you're not going to be happy because it's only going to bring in like $50,000 a year. And I was smiling. They said, are you being nice? Because on YouTube, you're way meaner. Are you just like being nice? What are you doing? I said, I'm not being nice. The reason I'm happy is you're thinking about it wrong and it's good. And they're like, why is that good? No one's ever said good. You're confusing me. I said, if you bring in $50,000 a year, most people will think that's not a big deal because they used to bring 300. And I bet that's what you're thinking. They said, that's right. I said, here's why you're wrong. If you bring in $50,000 a year, that's 50,000 fewer dollars that I need to send you from your portfolio that's now worth over $1 million. So when you bring in part-time income, that helps in a big way. That's less money coming from this big pot of money, which otherwise would be slowing down on growth because you don't have part-time income. They said, I get it, but I need more. I said, okay, what's 8% of $1 million? They said, well, that's about $80,000. I said, great. If you get 8% growth, that's $80,000. That's significant. If you're not withdrawing $50,000 because you're bringing in part-time income, that's letting that $1 million truly grow. Let's pretend you don't work and you don't bring in $50,000. You bring in nothing, okay? Well, you're going to need to live. You want to spend $100,000 to live. Okay, well, now it's not $80,000 because your $1 million is now worth $900,000. So now it's a much smaller number. And what I don't want you to do is go, oh my gosh, which I see a lot. I'm so done with work, but the idea of working part-time, I don't want to do anything. At some point, I'll go to my client and I go, I need you to be reasonable here because you want to spend this amount of money. If you don't, you can spend $6,000 a month and not work part-time, or you can work part-time, hopefully enjoy it, have a sense of purpose and fulfillment, and still be on track to travel and spend money on what you want to do. So it's just reframing this concept of part-time income not being a big deal. To me, it's one of the biggest hacks people overlook. Hopefully that was helpful, but go play around with the projection. See what it means for your potential strategy. See if that's even an option. I have clients that go, I think I could get laid off any day, and I'm going to go ask them if I can start working every day except Friday and just see if that shifts things. Great, start there. What relationship do you have with your boss? I have no idea, but I do appreciate hearing from all of you. So please, if this video was helpful, like it and then comment below if you learned something. If you want to use the tool, it's in the description of this video. Finally, please share it with someone that you want to retire early with. It makes it way more enjoyable, way more fun, and that's it. See you guys next time.